Well, when we come to Revelation 18, we're looking at the fully grown, the mature evils of this world. When we saw in chapter 17, we see the completion in chapter 18. Babylon, which is referred to in both chapters, is at the same time not only an ancient city, a kingdom of the past, but it is as well a present system of religion and a present way of life. Worldliness, Babylonianism, materialism, covetousness. In other words, the Babylonian materialism of Revelation 18 can be distilled down to just one word in the Bible: covetousness. Covetousness, the Bible tells us in Colossians 3, is idolatry. Idolatry is the worship of mammon, money, possessions, and so on, instead of God. Now, remember, when you read the Scriptures, the primary interpretation is, what did it mean to the one that wrote it and to the ones that read it the first time? And if you just were alive in John's day, in the last few years of the first century, Rome had gone to the limits in extravagance. The Caesars who sat on the throne would spend fortunes for a single meal. They would demand the most exotic and rare dishes for their personal consumption. Nero, whom we've all heard of, would decorate his banquets only with roses from Egypt. One banquet, the roses, that had to be imported, bush and all, and brought over the sea from Egypt to Rome for one banquet would cost $70,000 in his time, when people earned a penny a day. Imagine what that would be in our money. He would wear an outfit, Nero would. He would only wear things one time, but his outfit to his luncheon or supper banquet regularly cost $40,000 for the materials, as they would sew pearls and gold into the tunic or the robe or the cape or whatever he was wearing. Caligula, another emperor, demanded his meals be made of hummingbird and flamingo tongues. If you can imagine how many had to be tracked down, brought alive to Rome, and the tongue extracted so they could get spoiled just before the meal. He also would drink pearls. At one meal, he drank $200,000 worth of pearls dissolved in his wine, just to show how wealthy he was. He also lived on the livers of pikefish, which were only found up in the northern part of the empire, in Poland, in other areas where the cold water exists, and they would have to be brought live down to Rome so that he could have fresh liver of pike. He also enjoyed hors d'oeuvres of the brains of peacocks, and so on. Well, the problem of Revelation 18 was noted when St. Augustine in the 5th century said that the central problem of mankind is idolatry. And idolatry is when we use what we should worship, and when we worship what we're supposed to use. Just put all the evils of our world into that grid. Idolatry is when we use God in the foxhole, in the hospital, when the storms are hitting, when the plane is shaking. We use Him and say, God, help us. But we worship. That means we desire and our lives center on money, pleasure, recreation, sexual desires. Do you see what idolatry is? It's using God that we're to worship, and worshiping the things of the earth we're to use. And that's idolatry. Anything can be worshiped. Worship, simply stated, is anything which captivates and draws us toward it. A person may be so captivated by their work that they're irresistibly drawn to work all the time. What do we call them? A workaholic. That's a person who worships their work. Another may worship alcohol or drugs, and thus the alcoholic or the drug addict. They want to escape, and that's the worship of escaping reality. Another may worship the pleasures in the sensual realm, and thus the sexual addict, the pervert, the whoremonger, the fornicator. That's a person who worships pleasing himself. Another may be drawn by the allurements of wealth and possessions, and thus the materialist, the greedy, the selfish, rich fool that Jesus spoke of in Luke, who only planned for prosperity, eating, drinking, enjoying life. That's someone who worships wealth. Another may be drawn to the praise of man, and thus the proud, inward-seeking, the callous, unfeeling, self-centered person in self-worship. The test of whether or not you worship something is quite simple. Can you give it up? Can you give it up? Test yourself. In each of the areas we've covered, can you give up your career and accomplishments, the goals of your field for the Lord today? He called you to change directions for Him. Or you say, I couldn't. I'm so close to what I've always wanted. Now I couldn't give that up. And you worship your career plans, your 5-year goals, your financial plans, whatever. Can you give up drinking alcohol, smoking, or whatever? Can you take that substance that helps you escape reality and make it through life? And can you stop it completely today? If not, you worship the effects that substance gives in your life. The Lord says, you can't worship that and me. Can you end selfish, sensual pleasure pursuits of pornography, fornication, sodomy, adultery today? Can you give your pleasures to the Lord to fulfill in His perfect time, in His perfect way? If not, you worship them. Can you give up money, security, power? Can you give it all up today in the Lord's control? Nothing we grasp can we keep. Only what we give will last forever. Can you give up pride and self-seeking, self-absorption, self-focus? Can you today humble yourself, deny yourself, and take up your cross and follow Jesus? If not, then self-worship is a problem. The Bible describes covetousness very clearly, this concept of idolatrous worship of things, as a longing and a preoccupation with having what God has not given us. The book of Proverbs is full of that. The Old Testament prophets are full of pictures of people who were preoccupied and longed for what God hadn't given to them. They wanted something else. Somebody else's wife, somebody else's land, like Naboth's vineyard that Ahab wanted. You know the stories. Possessiveness, which is a cousin of covetousness, is to be selfish and unsharing with what God has given us. And the idolatry of worldliness either makes us possessive, that means we hold on to what we got, or it makes us covetous, we want what we don't have. And both of them are evils that this chapter is all about. A sure sign of the materialism of covetousness is in the insatiability that it produces. The legitimacy of a desire lies in our ability to satisfy or fulfill it. All true needs, such as food, drink, and companionship, are satiable. But illegitimate wants, such as pride, envy, greed, and lust, are insatiable. By their very nature, they can't be satisfied. As in John D. Rockefeller, when he was the first billionaire the world ever had, and virtually controlled nearly every drop of oil in the world. He was interviewed once. He said, what would you like, J.D.? He said, just one more dollar. He had most of them already. He wanted one more. The insatiable desire. Just one more high, one more fling, one more accomplishment. The Bible has many grim markers that show where illegitimate desires have given birth to immense disaster. Achan's lust for more led to his death by stoning and a similar death for his family in Joshua 7. Balaam's greed made him fail to hear his own message. I like Balaam's closing words. He said to God, let me die the death of the righteous. But he didn't want to live the life of the righteous. And you can't die the death of the righteous if you don't willingly submit to the life of the righteous. That's Numbers 22. Delilah betrayed the man who trusted her for a payoff in Judges 16. Solomon's insatiable desire for more of everything led him to depart from God. As Deuteronomy 17 warned him, don't multiply gold, women, and horses. And he did all three. Gehazi was not content with serving God, with the prophet of God. He lied to get more, and he paid dearly for it in 2 Kings 5 with leprosy. Judas measured the inestimable value of Jesus and reduced it to a handful of silver in Matthew chapter 26. Ananias and Sapphira couldn't let go of the money they possessed, nor the applause they coveted, so God killed them in Acts 5. And Jesus often warned his disciples about covetousness. He showed them in the Word of God in Luke 16 that you can't serve two masters. Either you hate one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You can't serve God and the world. What can we conclude? Covetousness or greed is not just a harmless pastime. It's a serious offense against God. And just as the lustful man is an adulterer and the hateful man is a murderer, so the greedy person is an idolater.